I'm still really, really cold this morning. I want to say it is now 38 degrees, but that's still really cold. So I've got my hat on and I'm just making my journals. I showed this on a couple of shorts. This is what I made over the cold. And I was just going to show you a little bit more in-depth of how I go about making my inserts for this, because I do buy them, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times I like to just make my inserts, and I think it gives my journal more character. So this one is just going to be plain white paper, and this is just the cheap copy paper. And then I have a piece of craft paper. And then I just go about folding these in half. Hold on. Maybe I need one of those fancy dancy tripods that do the down angle shots, but I don't have one, so here you go. You just simply take, and this is an A5 journal, I think that's the right size. So it's just normal paper, 8.5 by 11, and you just fold it in half. You have the right size. So I do a bunch of sheets of paper. I like to do about 10 per book because I think that gives me a good size notebook. You can do more, you can do less, depending on what you want to do. But then I just, since this is not tea dyed or coffee dyed, I might do 15. Okay, give me just a second. Okay, I did do 15 sheets. So, and then I put it inside. Now, I want to bind this like I would a signature of a, when you do bookbinding. So, I have a nice 3D printed tool here that helps me. And I just put it in here. Now, I do an odd number of holes. And this is the guide that I use. And you could go on and you can measure it to make sure that they were directly in the right place. But this is for my own personal use, so I just kind of wing it. So I want to put in 5. So I always start with the middle one, and I try to get that as centered as possible. Then I get the little pokey thing stuck. And then I space it how far ever I want it out. And I do 2 on one side and 2 on the other side. Now I've found what helps me out is when I move that, and then I can just go back in and do the holes again, just to make sure that my needles don't get stuck and my needle goes the right way when I am sewing these shut, or sewing them together. I guess I don't sew them shut. Okay, now I just use, I've had this forever, linen thread. Well, I guess I haven't had it forever. I've had it for a while. And this is what I use. I usually measure off 24 inches if I can find the end. You know, sometimes that's the hardest part. And I find for 5 holes, that gives me plenty enough to work with. You can see I have 24 inches here on my workspace. And these needles are so much easier to thread because my old eyes. And what I do is I start with this middle one and just bring it down. Always leave a tail because the tail is what you're going to tie it off with. And then just come up. So you pick either side and then you come up through that side. And make sure that you're not pulling your tail through. Yes, I've done that before. And then down. Had to get my finger out of the way. And then up again through the other hole. Get my tail out of the way. And then back down through the original hole. Again, sometimes that tail gets in the way, so you want to move it around. And then you do the same thing on the other side. Don't know if you can see my needle there. Just go up. And that's why you can do more than 5 holes if you wanted to. Just make sure that's an odd number, so you can have the, so it comes out in the right spot. Sometimes it's hard finding the hole on the other side. And then you just want to tie it off. Maybe I should do this in a different color thread so it's easier to see. I'm sorry about that. And then you just tie it off. And sometimes for me, this is the hardest thing to get done because just no good at it here. Remember when I used to have my children were little and I'd say, come here and put your finger there so I can tie the knot. And as easy as that is, you now have a signature for your journal. Now you can get a paper cutter. I have a heavy duty paper cutter downstairs, and you can trim those lines because you can see they're kind of pointed, and that used to bother me, but not so much anymore. And now you can just take this and you've got your, I guess they're calling Louise Carmen inspired. To me, this is a traveler's notebook, that the kind of notebook I have been making for years. And you have different inserts for different purposes. You might want this insert for, you know, keeping journaling and receipts. You might want the pretty color dyed ones for other purposes. But you can make an insert for all of your, you know, whatever strikes your mood. And there you have it. And it's all inserted in your traveler's notebook. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. I actually love these. I love that. Isn't this color purple just beautiful? I have to, if you know where to get charms, please leave a comment down below. I am in desperate need of charms. And as always, I am going to be on YouTube more, so make sure that you like, follow, do all that stuff down below. And I will be, yeah, most definitely be showing you some more of my journals.